Donald Trump faced a second day of criticism after failing to personally denounce white nationalists, neo-Nazis and others who held a rally in Virginia that ended with a deadly ramming attack on pedestrians. Following an uproar from lawmakers in both parties and many civil rights groups, the White House released a statement Sunday that the president condemns all forms of violence, bigotry and hatred, and of course that includes white supremacists, KKK, neo-Nazi and all extremist groups. Still, critics wanted to hear the sentiment from Trump himself. It's something that needs to come from the Oval Office and this White House needs to do it today, Senator Cory Gardner, Republican of Colorado, said on CNN's State of the Union. Clashes on Saturday between groups protesting the city of Charlottesville's decision to remove a statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee, and those opposed to the rally, left more than a dozen people injured. Television images showed police in riot gear among the crowd, and some of the protesters chanted anti-Semitic slogans. 3 people later died, including 2 state troopers killed in a helicopter crash after responding to the scene. The Federal Bureau of Investigation opened a civil rights probe into the driver of a car who slammed into a crowd of counter-protesters, killing 1 and injuring over a dozen. Come together. In his initial response via Twitter, Trump said, "We all must be united, condemn all that hate stands for. There is no place for this kind of violence in America. Let's come together as one." Trump also called for a swift restoration of law and order. But later, during a bill-signing ceremony in Bedminster, New Jersey, Trump described Saturday's rally as an egregious display of hatred, bigotry, violence on many sides. That suggested the president was placing equal blame on the white nationalists and neo-Nazi groups that organized the event, and those protesting them. "Mr. President, we must call evil by its name. These were white supremacists and this was domestic terrorism," Gardner tweeted on Saturday. Senator John McCain of Arizona said Saturday's events marked a confrontation between our better angels and our worst demons. Those were among several slaps against the president lodged by members of Trump's own party, including Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah, who said, "My brother didn't give his life fighting Hitler for Nazi ideas to go unchallenged here at home." U.S. President Donald Trump speaks to the press about protests in Charlottesville on August 12. A White House official said Saturday that the president had been condemning hatred, bigotry and violence from all sources and all sides, and that there had been violence in Charlottesville between protesters and counter-protesters. Sunday's statement was more explicit. The president's daughter Ivanka, a White House advisor, on Sunday tweeted, "There should be no place in society for racism, white supremacy and neo-Nazis. We must all come together as Americans and be one country united," singling out still. Those comments didn't deflect complaints that Trump needed to lean on family members and unnamed aides. Donald Trump mocked Barack Obama for not calling Islamic terrorism by its name. "Now he must call white supremacy terrorism by its name," tweeted Joe Scarborough, the MSNBC Morning Joe co-host and former Republican congressman from Florida. On Sunday, Trump's national security advisor, H.R. McMaster, described the car crash as domestic terrorism. "We cannot tolerate this kind of bigotry, this kind of hatred," he said on ABC's This Week. Charlottesville Mayor Mike Siner also called it terrorism on NBC's Meet the Press, and laid blame on Trump for intentional courting of right-wing extremist groups, and then failing to put to bed all those different efforts. Murder charge: a 32-year-old woman died and 19 sustained injuries ranging from minor to life-threatening in the ramming incident, which had echoes of deadly attacks in London this year, France in 2016, and other places. The city government identified the driver of the vehicle, a Dodge Challenger, as James Alex Fields Jr., 20, of Maumee, Ohio. He's been charged with 1 count of second-degree murder, 3 counts of malicious wounding and 1 of a hit-and-run. Photographs from Saturday's rally showed Fields standing with members of the group Vanguard America, which is described by the Anti-Defamation League as white supremacists with ties to the neo-Nazi movement. Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe, a Democrat, declared a state of emergency on Saturday after violent run-ins between thousands of the demonstrators, counter-protesters and supporters of the activist group Black Lives Matter. At a press conference, McAuliffe addressed the white supremacists and the Nazis who came into Charlottesville today. "Our message is plain and simple: go home. You are not wanted in this great Commonwealth. Shame on you, white Americans." The Southern Poverty Law Center, a civil rights group based in Montgomery, Alabama, sent a blast fundraising email calling Trump's comments about unity hollow. One of the best-known white supremacists in the U.S., former Ku Klux Klan leader and Louisiana lawmaker David Duke, tweeted at Trump, "I would recommend you take a good look in the mirror. Remember, it was white Americans who put you in the presidency, not radical leftists." Lawmakers piled on, "Make no mistake, these insidious psychologies have been given license to be brought out in the open air by a president president that openly seized upon these hatreds during his campaign, and continues to traffic in divisive rhetoric and hateful policies in the White House, Senator Chris Murphy, a Connecticut Democrat, said in a statement. The Congressional Black Caucus tweeted that Trump's false equivalency, dog whistles are sad. White supremacy is to blame. There are not two sides to this situation, House Minority Whip Steny Hoyer, a Maryland Democrat, said in a statement. We must condemn racism and unite as a nation around our common principles of tolerance, respect, and equality for all. House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi, a California Democrat, said talk of violence on many sides ignores the shameful reality of white supremacism in our country today, and continues a disturbing pattern of complacency, and Representative Ileana Ros-Lehtinen of Florida, a Republican, said on Twitter that white supremacists, neo-Nazis and anti-Semites are the antithesis of our American values. There are no other sides to hatred and bigotry. Anthony Scaramucci, fired in July after 10 days as White House Communications Director, said Trump didn't do enough. I wouldn't have recommended that statement, he said on ABC's This Week of Trump's words on Saturday from Bedminster. I think he would have needed to have been much harsher, with assistance by Laura J. Keller.